Yeah. And action. Welcome to Co-op Critics. I am Tony, and
I've been watching too much Parks and Rec.
Oh my
I just did Tom's face.
Aren't you gonna introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm Zach Nichols.
Hey, we're the Co-op Critics. Okay. Anyways,
What are we doing today, Tony?
today we're doing a top 10, but instead of like a regular top 10, we're having it be, since there's two of us, a personal top 5 for each of us, and we'll just go back and forth between our list.
Because top 10 would take forever.
Yeah, that's gonna do the math.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna do any of the same games. Who wants to make bets that we're gonna do the same games? You think we're gonna do the same games? Real? All of you think that?
I don't think we're gonna.
I don't think one of them's gonna be the same, to be honest.
There might be one, but
They're not gonna be at the same time. That would be
Oh,
completely
no.
inexplicable. Well, how about you start? I'm just gonna change it, even though I said I was gonna start. How about you start?
oh, pressure. Okay, so all right, my number 5 is Far Cry 3.
To my brother Riley for getting his pilot's license. Where the hell is that motherfucker?
To my father's black card, to my black card.
God, I haven't done Sambuca since I was 20 years old.
Yeah, it's a more recent game.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about it is how the series has transformed over the each individual games. The first one was about a guy goes to an island, gets injected with the serum, becomes like this beast, like literally, and
Yeah, not like in the high school football player sense.
yeah, like you gain like superpowers, so you can run really fast, jump super high, whatever. Second game decided to take that idea and make it, instead of literal, thematic. So it became like a adaptation of the Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, where the idea was you're a foreigner to this land, and as the game progresses, you figure out basically you're becoming this horrible villain, and that game wasn't particularly.
There's a lot of driving.
Yeah. Far Cry 3 somehow managed to marry both ideas, and so what you get is this awesome, like, sort of real life logic and video game logic that don't mix, and it's one of the few games, I think the only other game I can think of that addresses that is Spec Ops: The Line, which came out around the same time.
Ooh. Sorry, you mentioned more good games.
It's just a fun game. Like, it's one of those games that,
It's really well written.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope your mama and your papa really, really love you. Because you two white boys, you look very expensive.
It just feel real. Like, if I was in this situation, this is how I would react, which greatly contrasts with the main character.
Did you see that explosion?
What? Something exploded!
Who's just like having the time of his life.
Because you're a video game character.
Yeah, he's like Mega Man. He kills people, becomes more powerful, things progress, and he's having fun, which disturbs everyone else. What about you, Zach? What's your top 5?
My number 5 is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong.
Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is a really great example of like a game taking a cool idea and just building upon it and making it make sense. They're like, Prince of Persia was really hard platforming. What if we made it where you could go back in time? And then they did all this. It was also a very well-written game, which, by the way, also has a really amazing female protagonist. It's one of the few that you can find especially from the early 2000s. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played that game as a kid, and it was one of the few games I beat as a child, which says a lot, because I don't beat video games. Almost today, I still don't beat games very often. Did you ever play that game?
I gotta admit, I rented it, went through like the beginning, and it's not that I don't think it's a bad game, or it just didn't click with me, so I didn't get very far in it.
Well, you also said that about Metroid Prime.
Yeah, I'm weird when it comes to playing video games.
I think beating a game is like a sign of how much you liked it.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think if you don't beat a game, it's not a big deal. Okay, now it's number 4. You first.
Okay, number 4. My number 4 is Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward.
What is that?
I thought that was the reaction.
See, this is why I thought we wouldn't. We've played tons of games, and we haven't played the same game, so I knew this would happen.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know how many people have heard of this game. It's a sequel to 999. Basically, it's just a series of puzzle games. What makes it unique is that they're ontological mysteries, and that the goal is to figure out sort of where you even are, who you even are, and why you're in this situation. It's the setup to these games is sort of like Saw, force you to do some series of puzzles. If you don't do them, failure usually results in death.
That's the plot to I Spy Spooky Mansion.
What?
Enter if you dare.
But unlike Saw, the games aren't gore-based. They're puzzle-based. What I find interesting about these games, and the reason they're my favorite, is because, especially with Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward, the story is unlike anything I've ever seen in any other thing, ever. There's one time I was playing the game, and I had this reaction where I had to put down the console and just sit back and just kind of go, I don't even know what's going on anymore, and I didn't even know that that was possible in a narrative. It's probably the most in-depth and interesting examples of multi-dimensional time travel. It's yeah.
I'm so clueless. This game is a complete mystery to me still.
Yeah. It's basically a visual novel, and it plays like a choose-your-own-adventure book, and it's just interesting and fun.
Oh. That actually ties in weirdly well with my number 4. My number 4 was the Game of Thrones game.
Ah!
From Telltale, which is also kind of like a visual novel. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I haven't finished the Game of Thrones one. I actually made a note that you can insert basically any Telltale game, because I'm pretty sure all of them are almost as good. Like, there's none of them that are just bad.
I hear the Jurassic Park one isn't as good, but
there's a Jurassic Park Telltale game?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's older, or a little older.
Oh, I'm thinking Walking Dead onwards.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything they've made so far has been super critically acclaimed. They're a great example. I put them on my personal favorites because when I started playing those games, it made me think about how video games can be a lot different than just playing a video game. There's a lot of people who say video games are all about skill and the challenge. I'm like, they don't necessarily have to be. One of my favorite things is games like the Telltale games, where you make a lot of different decisions, and it's not necessarily about skill. Sometimes you just make decisions and everybody dies.
Yeah.
Which is basically relevant for all the games. Game of Thrones I picked specifically though because I love The Walking Dead. Don't get me wrong. Game of Thrones is probably the perfect platform for like their storytelling, which usually involves a lot of really in-depth characters and a lot of death. And
yes.
Walking Dead's really good, but Game of Thrones also has that political power struggle going on, and it just works perfectly. And it has, like the TV show, there's a whole bunch of things going on outside of what is happening on screen. When you're talking to people, it's not just about who you're talking to, it's about who they talk to and what's going to happen because of it. So, I love it. I really recommend it. It's only $5 for the first episode, and I'm sure...
Really?
Yeah, each episode's only like $5. So, you can buy one, and then if you like it, just buy the rest.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
My number 3, this might surprise you, Eiko.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, you're not surprised?
No, I'm actually not. I know you recently played it, but
yeah, okay, so I recently...
You've been highly praising it ever since you've started.
Eiko is one of those games that...
He doesn't like Shadow of the Closet.
What?
Huh?
Huh?
Okay, so Eiko's one of those games that's awesome because of how simple it is. To me, I think a lot of people relate it to Journey because of its very simplistic, not very in-your-face, story-driven narrative. Yeah, Eiko doesn't because basically it tells its story through its gameplay. You play as a kid who has horns, and because of that, he's imprisoned in this
Horns?
horns.
Gotcha.
Yeah, horns. He's locked away in the cell, and by chance, his cell happens to fall off. It's like a box. And he wakes up, and on his way to escape the castle, he finds this girl called Yorda, and they work together to escape. What makes it interesting from a gameplay perspective is how the controls to the game and Eiko's playstyle is very non-defined. And so each of the controls, or each of the buttons, sort of act less like a do this and more of there's a call Yorda button, but that's also, Yorda's the girl. That's also how you like do things like lead her around, or there's like situations in the game where be forced to have Yorda like jump across a bridge, a gap in a bridge, and if she falls or something like that, you could like run up and try and catch her. Because of that, the way the levels are designed, the challenge of the game isn't figuring out, okay, here's this puzzle, I need to move this block to that block, and blah, blah, blah. It's thinking, there's the exit, here I am, how do I even get there? And you have to do crazy things like what you would consider going out of the level even. And it's just,
Sweet.
yeah, it's weird and it's interesting. It's this very simple but highly effective and emotional story.
So my number 3 now?
Yeah.
Braid.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Braid a lot. I like Jonathan Blow a lot.
Oh,
When you gonna make that next game, Jonathan Blow?
seriously?
Braid was basically the first super duper big hit indie game that ever existed. That was the one. It came out on Xbox Live Arcade, and it did super well. I remember it being the first digital game that came out that I like downloaded to my Xbox and bought for like $10 or something. I played like a demo and I was like, this is amazing. But as far as like, we've already mentioned games that use the gameplay to tell the story a lot. This is another game that does that pretty well. A good example, there is the one level where you start using a ring that slows down time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ring is supposed to represent how whenever he was married, it changed people's perspective on him. They kind of explain that in text, but the puzzles are supposed to be representative and symbolic. Like, I enjoy that. Like, it's primarily a video game, but there's also these story elements that are more in the back that you have to explore. If you haven't played it yet, what's wrong with you? It's like $10 on Steam.
Yeah.
Get it. But I love it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It looks great. Go buy it.
Number 2, we hate really like complicated stories that like that are just in your face. So my number 2 is Metal Gear Solid 3.
I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's actually funny.
Okay, Metal Gear Solid 3. Yeah, okay, so we just bashed Metal Gear Solid like on like, what was it, 3 or 4? 3, yeah, it was 3. So,
That was like 5 minutes ago. I can't remember.
yes, but what's cool about Metal Gear Solid 3, yes, its story is kind of convoluted. Yes, it's kind of nonsensical and stupid in a lot of ways. But guess what? I love stupid stuff. Like,
There's nothing wrong with liking it.
it may not be critically the best game ever, but it is just fun. It's basically...
That's why I like Metal Gear Solid. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So, like, Metal Gear Solid 1 is basically 80s action movie, the game. Metal Gear Solid 3, it's James Bond, the game. But from a Japanese perspective, told from an American point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just realized I don't have a Metal Gear Solid game on here.
Really?
Yeah, I'm shocked. It got bumped down too much. They're great games, but other games have hit me harder.
Yeah.
And I've played all of them.
Yeah, same. Well, except Peace Walker. I haven't played Peace Walker.
Who has?
People
I hate
with
that
PSPs.
one. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I've actually played about an hour of it. It was weird.
But yeah, it's fun. Story is crazy, and it like legit made me cry a few times.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's cheesy, but it's great.
Yeah. What's wrong with cheesy?
And the boss is great. We've already talked about
the
that.
boss is probably the best example of a good female character in video games.
Yeah, she's great. What are we on, 2? 2,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, Half-Life 2.
Ah.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, they're the only games that, like, take note from, like, you know, like, old games like Mario and stuff on how to, like, teach players how to play the game and how to keep it interesting. Half-Life is like a game, if you boot it up, you'll just, like, start playing it, and you probably won't stop playing it until the end of the game, as long as you can. Because it does, like, it's constantly giving you new things to do. It's like, oh, now you're controlling an army of ant lions.
Yeah.
Like, now you're going to be doing physics puzzles with a gun. Like, they just make up anything that'll work, and I love it.
Yeah, and they weren't really. I don't know if they were the first persons to do things like horde mode, but there was a part in it where, and it's one of the things I remember about it.
Oh yeah.
Where you set up turrets, and like the game is just looking or maintaining these turrets. You're not even fighting the enemies. I mean, you can, but
I love those games, and I'm always like, I wish that other people would take note that this is an amazing game, and that this is how you make a game. But nobody does. Then they're like, hey, look, Portal 1, Portal 2. No one gets it still.
Oh, it's like Valve's that guy that makes great games. Go on, okay, now here's the games that are really good. It's like, no, Valve makes amazing games.
They really do. They know what a good game is, and they make them. That's how it works. It's short, to the point. It's not short, but it is to the point, and it's super fun. And if you haven't played it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
All right. You want to do number 1?
All right, number 1. All right.
That hurts.
My number 1, Final Fantasy X. You mean like the worst Final Fantasy game, and the fact that Final Fantasy games aren't good? Okay, let me explain like why I like this game.
He's gonna use all 10 minutes.
I'm gonna use all 10. No, okay, I'll try to keep it concise. Basically,
explain the story of Final Fantasy X, will you?
Oh God. Oh God.
This is your story.
Basically what I love about it is similarly, for the same reason I like Zero Escape, and the fact that there's almost nothing like it anywhere else. Even within Final Fantasy, there's nothing like it. The creator of the game, when he looked at the Final Fantasy series and other games at the time, he was really disappointed in the fact that like anything that tried to even attempt fantasy was always Tolkien-esque. Always elves and dwarves and...
That's true. Did the guy who made 10 also make 7?
Yes.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yes, yeah, so even like after 7, it was such a huge hit that Cyberpunk even started to become so mainstream that it wasn't even fantasy anymore. Mm-hmm. So what he decided to do is he was going to make a game about Southeast Asia and turn it into a fantasy. And so what you get is like this really crazy, just interesting world. Literally every aspect about the society is gone into it in detail, and it's interesting. The main character can be a hugely annoying brat.
Oh, if I score a goal, I'll, do this. That will mean it was for you, okay?
But what's the thing that people forget about the main character is that he is sort of the vehicle of the story, in the sense that he is also foreign to this world because he comes from something else, which I can't go into without spoilers. And like when people hate it, one of the things that they constantly bring up is this scene from the game, and you might can pull this up, where it's the main characters and they're sitting around and they're like laughing, and it's like the most horribly awkward thing to watch. the reason I feel like that reason why it gave like a lot of undeserved negative attention is because it's the fact that that scene is supposed to be awkward.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I just remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The part where they're like, what is it, on their beach or something? And then he just starts going,
yeah.
That.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's supposed to be horribly awkward because they just experienced like something traumatizing. And the main character has gone through something that like I can't even describe.
I actually thought that was a romantic scene.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit.
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
The gameplay is fun. You have to like RPGs, obviously, but it's a finely constructed game with. But I will admit the main reason I like it is the fact that there's just nothing like it.
It is a weird game. That game's like playing a dream.
Yes.
It's so bizarre. Like, just completely out there. It was long, and it was pretty insane. But
yeah, it's long, but like earlier you mentioned, you played, what game was it? This is a game that I try to play almost like every year, just because I just enjoy it that much.
It takes a year to beat this game.
It kind of does.
My number one is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Close.
You were
Ocarina.
close?
Ocarina.
You thought it was Ocarina?
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I enjoy Ocarina, but I think of it as just like kind of a fun puzzle game, but I've never thought of it as like the best game ever. Majora's Mask is where I think they realized, it's like as if when they made it, they thought, Ocarina of Time, they're like, the gameplay's fun, but the story is basic. And then they were like, what can we do that's literally the opposite of what we usually do? And they were like, how about the world is gonna end because the moon's gonna crash into it and everyone's gonna die? And it's like, all right, we could do that. So the entire game is like, it's like take just a fun game, but then instead attach this amazing atmosphere and story that you can't possibly forget because I played this when I was 7. and like, I can't even describe how amazing it is. Like, I think it's one of those games that I'm like, if you really want to know what it's like, you need to just go play it. Because it's hard to just tell people why it's good. Because you can say things like, it's weird that there's a Nintendo game where the world's gonna end and like it's so depressed. Literally the entire game's theme is death. And it's a Legend of Zelda game, of all things. Like, Legend of Zelda is very like Disney and also kind of Tolkien-esque.
Yeah.
Like, it's very fantasy style. But then
Gorons are dwarves.
Yeah.
Zoras?
Yeah.
Yeah, or elves.
It's not even in Hyrule. Like, they were just like,
Yeah.
forget the whole normal story bits. Like, why don't we just go ahead and make it somewhere else? And we talk about story and gameplay a lot, and there is like cinematics and things like most Zelda games have, but the story in that game is told in a lot of different ways other than, you know, just the like, you know, it's told in like the design of all the levels. It's told in the music and the atmosphere. It's not all about like what happens. It's also about like how weird it is when every time you save somebody's life, you have to reverse time and then nothing is changed. And it makes you feel futile and human. A game that they made for 7-year-olds.
I don't know. One of the like I haven't actually played through all. I really want to. But one of my favorite things about it is just like its development history. The fact that like Ocarina of Time, everyone, the best game ever, 10 out of 10, everybody loves it. And then they're like, geez, what do we do? And like this one developer is like, hey, I want to make a Legend of Zelda game. And the guy's like, okay, you got a year. Done. Freaking done.
Yeah, which that explains why they reused almost everything from Ocarina of Time. But
yeah, but it works.
Yeah, but it's better. Whoever did the score for that game just nailed it. That game's score is amazing, and the whole game is amazing. There needs to be more. I think it's it.
Yeah, so that's our top 5. Or top 5. And top 5. Top 5.
Top 5. Hey, I hope you enjoyed episode 2 of Co-op Critics. The top 10, whatever. We never actually agreed on a name. What was your favorite game? You can put it in the comments, and then maybe you can like and share the video so that maybe some more people will watch it and put some comments, and then you can argue with them because it's YouTube. I love you. Bye.